So
Yeah.
you started in 2007, right? Or before that?
Yeah, I started by 2007. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and then you worked
I
with,
kind of started as a test automation engineer with one of the most reputed firms in India. And
yeah,
then I hopped on to a different firm. That's where I met you guys. You remember
ah,
that? So,
yes.
yeah, I was still a test automation engineer there as well. But yeah, down the line, I kind of transitioned myself into a DevOps engineer. And then I moved on to designing solutions. And now I'm a cloud architect, particularly focusing on the areas of Azure and DevOps.
Okay, so
So it's been 17 years now, yeah.
when that
Mm.
transition happened, yeah,
Oh, okay, yeah. I think between my career, like somewhere about 5 years of my career, so I kind of transitioned to DevOps. So initially, like I was just tasked with setting up kind of a CI/CD pipeline for just automated testing.
yeah.
So one of the part, like the build, deployment, and the quality gates for the build, everything is taken care by the developers, except after the deployment they wanted some kind of sanity to run. So since I was a test automation engineer, I was tasked with plugging in our automation scripts on their DevOps pipelines. So that's where I started, and then gradually I kind of got involved into projects where they were just kind of doing things manually, and then you gotta go and just set up the entire CI/CD pipeline for them, and that's how it started. So project after project, you just go see those legacy systems, kind
Mm.
of write wrappers around those legacy systems to automate their build and deployment process. So slowly it started moving into the areas of development as well, from testing, not just there in the testing, right? So, and then after that, gradually I moved on to design area, wherein I was tasked with designing the DevOps solution itself, and the team would be implementing
So
the
before you go to the
engineering. Yeah.
design
Hmm.
role,
Hmm.
so I want to understand like how the DevOps role was, like how it was different from automation testing. So in
Wasn't
automation
much.
test, it was similar, right?
Mhm.
Not very
Yeah, it
different.
wasn't much. Yeah. So I would say why it wasn't much. The reason is that I was into like initially it was everybody starts with the QTP, right? So I mean, now it's UFT. And when I started, it was Mercury QTP to be
Yes.
precise, and then it moved on to HP and stuff. So we kind of automate the user actions on the UI, right? So I gradually moved on to different tools. Like I moved on to Test Complete then, which was also very much similar to QTP, but you just use a different scripting language, and the
Yeah.
backend that it uses to invoke the UI was somewhat different than
Yeah.
what QTP used to do. But
Yeah.
then I moved on to Selenium, but not direct Selenium. The project kind of involved, in our project was completely built based on the JavaScript, which is Angular JS, and then the backend was again Java Spring Boot,
Hmm.
right? So um, the task was like it's Node.js, right? So complete Node.js built for Angular. Now, the UI was so modular and like so planned out. So each and every like user interactable fields has a unique name to it from the Angular JS itself, right?
Hmm.
Now there was a library called Nightwatch JS back then, back in time. I think they still use that now.
Yeah.
And this Nightwatch JS was something that you was built on top of Selenium. So it was a wrapper built around Selenium for functional UI interactions for node-based applications. So
Yeah.
the UI was Angular, again Node.js. Then I was tasked with just the library Nightwatch.js to develop the Node language, right? So
Yeah.
that's where the kind of transition started, like from a core VB script into some kind of programming language, like even it's a scripting language, JavaScript, but again, which is used for development purpose
Yeah.
majorly.
Nowadays, like it
Yeah.
is used in Node.js and backend are developed in Node.js. So
Yeah, yeah. So JavaScript is everywhere nowadays,
yeah,
right?
every day.
So yeah, and that was the base. Like just for automation, I started with that JavaScript, right? So which
Yeah.
was very close to development. So my phase of
Yeah.
transitioning into complete DevOps was just like let's take example. So in the modern tool development, you have all package managers, you have all
Mm. Yeah. Yes.
build tools and stuff, right? So
Yeah.
each development language has their own packaging tool and build tool, which makes it easy for the CI/CD pipeline. Like if
Yes.
you're building Node.js, it's npm or yarn. Just
Yeah. It is
straightforward. You
just
just
that
do
the
it. Yeah.
commands that we have to
Yeah.
execute. Yeah.
Exactly. Precisely. But sometimes what happens is you will not have a modern based web development or modern application development platforms. You
Yeah.
still need to set up CI/CD pipeline for that, right?
Yeah.
So I was tasked with such an activity in my career. It was just all pure COTS products. Right, so everything was a COTS product.
Mm.
You might have heard about it, web methods, which
Mm.
is an integration platform. So it does not offer out of the box capabilities for DevOps, right? So you will have to kind of work around, write automation scripts with their APIs in order
Okay.
to achieve some certain tasks, right?
Mm.
So you can build web methods packages and then deploy web methods packages, but you need to work around, you need to build automation around that COTS
Yeah.
product. So that's where I kind of moved more into development, right? So you need to write
Mm.
PowerShell scripts, you need to write Unix shell scripts, and sometimes you need to write Python scripts in order to handle the data transition or
Did you
invoke
use
the
any
API.
specific tools like, for DevOps, they use Ansible and a lot of tools are there, right?
Okay. When you come to Ansible, so Ansible is something different. So when you speak about DevOps, right, it's a very vast area. So
Yeah.
I would
So
actually
what are the
majorly
major
categorize.
tools? What are the major tools you used during your career?
Yeah, there is a lot of tools. So let me categorize the DevOps, and then I'll go
Yeah.
by tool, right? So majorly, when you say DevOps, it's a very vast area.
Mm.
So they categorize into four like sub areas. One is your continuous integration and continuous delivery (CI/CD), right?
Mm.
Where you just set up automation around whole software development and build and deployment process, right? And the second is containerization, right?
Yeah.
Containerization comes when you kind of package your application into micro containers like Docker container or
Mm.
KVM containers, and container orchestrations like a Kubernetes platform or Oracle's OpenShift and stuff, right? That is one other area in the DevOps. The third area is infrastructure as code, right? The
Yeah.
infrastructure as code is where you speaking, right? Like Ansible,
Yeah. The
then
Terraform.
your bicep scripts, Terraforms, all those comes into picture, right?
Yeah.
So when you speak about and the fourth area is recently added, and it's a very new. It's kind of site reliability engineering. When you say cloud, when there is an application hosted on cloud, you are supposed to kind of have that like resilience in the application itself and high availability in the application. So those things also comes under DevOps nowadays. So these are the four
Mm.
areas. And from a tools point of view, if you ask me, I've used each and every tool. I mean, each area I've used at least two or three tools. Like for
Okay.
CI/CD pipeline, I kind of started with Jenkins, then I moved on to TeamCity. Then I right now the prime area we focus is GitHub, and then Azure DevOps. Azure DevOps is primary because I'm into Azure and Microsoft stuff. So yeah.
So I want to understand, like, during our automation projects, we use like CI/CD, right? So did you
Mhm.
develop the CI/CD for the actual development project as well? There is a
Oh yeah,
development.
that's right. That's
Okay.
what I meant to say, right? So we had a lot of legacy applications which
Okay.
required CI/CD again.
Okay.
So and also straightforward applications too, like this Angular.
Yeah.
The next project was React.js, and
Mm.
then your backend was again Express.js, which is again a Node platform, right? For that also we have
Okay.
established the whole CI/CD pipeline. It's all npm commands, right? So you just need
Mm.
to, and I've also set up CI/CD pipelines for Kubernetes. I mean, packaging your application into containers and deploying them into Kubernetes
Okay.
cluster and stuff. But yeah, that was all back uh, minimum 5 years back, and then after that, it's all design and then solutioning for the whole Azure cloud.
So you kind of worked in three main roles, like automation testing, then DevOps, and now solution architect, you're saying.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So
So
I
it
want
was
to
a slow
understand.
transition. It was
Yeah.
not like I was one day an automation tester and then immediately I became DevOps. So as I said, like it was a slow transition. Initially
Okay.
started just integrating test automation. Then I moved on to integrating or setting up CI/CD for the whole develop software development lifecycle, right? And then I again started my designing career for with solutioning the design for just DevOps area, right? And then I gradually moved on to when I try to solution for the solution with Azure DevOps. Then I got kind of familiar with all the Azure resources, right? And then you like gradually move on to designing like Azure solutions for any applications because you know what resources are there, right, in Azure, and what you were supposed to kind of like add in your design. And then I
Okay.
like yeah, this is how my transition happened.
So
Mhm.
how did you move to the solution architect? Like, why did you decide basically? Because
Okay.
you're already working
I
as a
wanted to
DevOps
stay
engineer.
technical. I wanted to stay current, and then I kind of like to learn new things, right? So even when you are in DevOps, you cannot say that I know DevOps because tomorrow there's a new tool coming in and the customer would expect you to implement that tool again, right?
Mm,
And there is a very short span of time for you to learn that new tool and then implement it with the best practices and stuff, right?
mm,
So learning just and then implementing is something different. But when you move along, your experience helps you implement the best practices, even if you learn the tool just recently, right?
mm.
So that's how. Like I wanted to stay technical. I wanted to keep myself updated, so I
Okay.
choose the track of solution
So how
architect.
the role
I,
is different, like from the DevOps say, or the
oh
developer?
yeah, in DevOps, you just focus on one area of the application, right? It's just build, deployment,
Mm,
packaging,
yeah.
versioning your package, versioning your source code,
Mm,
right? And release management. That's all, right?
yeah.
But when you design solution for the entire application, or like in an enterprise, you know how it is, right? It's not just a simple application like a CRUD based application. You have front end, you have back end, you have
Yeah.
logic layer, right? So you have so many components involved, so many integrations involved, so many key resources that from Azure you need to suggest for a particular use case, right?
Mm,
So it is not one day or in one project that I have implemented with my whole soul knowledge, right? So
mm,
always when I go into a project, there is a new learning, right? So
yeah.
for example, I was introduced to streaming platform like just 4 years back, I think. Yeah.
Mm,
So I was never aware of what Kafka is. Yeah,
okay.
but again, I had to learn what is a streaming platform and why do you use Kafka messaging when you had other brokers, right? So you had IBM, IAB message queuing systems. Why do you need Kafka
Yes. Yes.
precisely, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
What's that? Yeah.
Mm,
So those things like you keep yourself updated, and then I even presented the solution, and it was good. It wasn't
okay.
there wasn't, and I would say that it's not just success in your life, right? So sometimes when you design a solution, sometimes it could fail, but
Okay.
it's just the way that you get back to it again immediately after the failure, right? You need to just think about the other possibilities and design the better solution than what you
So
did before.
So how the typical role looks like for the solution architect? For example, for DevOps, I know like you're mostly
Mhm.
involved in creating the CI/CD pipelines and all that stuff. So in
Yeah.
solution architect, you are no longer doing that stuff, right? Or it is like overlapped. There are some activities you're still
It
doing.
is just a part of what I do. It's just a
Okay.
simple part of what I do. It's yeah, and it comes at the end. Or it nowadays it's not a special thing to have DevOps, right?
Okay.
It's already integrated into development lifecycle, right? If you're starting with a development project,
Hmm.
obviously automatically DevOps is integrated in your development lifecycle. Your developer's responsibility is to build the pipeline. Your
Hmm.
developer's responsibility is to have all the security checks in the pipeline. Your developer's responsibility is to validate and monitor those security measures are met and
Okay.
release the code, right? So it's all integrated with the development lifecycle now. So there is no specific DevOps role in the modern web development or modern application development, to be precise. But there are in some places we still have DevOps team sitting and trying to do the CI/CD automation apart from the developer team. But yeah, gradually that's changing. Nowadays,
Hmm.
what DevOps means is just infrastructure or environment engineering or environment analysts, right? So
Hmm.
everybody is called the DevOps engineer now, right? Because the infrastructure as code comes into picture,
Hmm.
and the environment analyst requires to write the infrastructure as code for actually managing and maintaining his environment, right? So he is a DevOps engineer again. So new roles are kind of transitioning into DevOps role because DevOps has now engulfed not just CI/CD, your infrastructure as code, your containers, and your site reliability is also being engulfed by the DevOps, right? So that's why there are new DevOps engineer roles coming in, and it's just a added role to whatever that particular engineer was doing before. As
Okay.
I gave an example, like an environment analyst, right? So environment analyst was responsible for provisioning the environment. Now he learns to automate that provisioning, and he becomes a DevOps engineer. So it's kind of a vague area. They call everyone a DevOps engineer, but there are some categories, and each category has its own skill set and
Okay.
things that are required.
So as a solution architect, let's say you proposed a solution. For example, let's
Mhm.
say you said that we will use Kafka for that particular problem. Okay.
Mhm.
So, so do you involve in the implementation as well, or it is the developer's role that he's gonna use that technology and
I see
implement?
it through the implementation, right?
Mm,
And whenever there is a design challenge that is
mm,
posed, right, then we have to look into that design challenge and then redesign the system, right? It's not just like, say, you are going to use Kafka. Within Kafka, what is it that we are going to use, right? So like for example, let me put it in this way, that we have a DevOps solution in place, okay,
mm,
and it's a very huge team. Like say we are more than 50 member,
mm,
and not everyone is intended to use all the pipelines, right? So you need to have clear segregation of duties and clear permissions set to each pipeline, right? Only certain resources or certain people who or DevOps engineer are supposed to run the pipeline, and certain people who are like developers were just supposed to check in the configuration or do some changes in the repository, right? They're not supposed to kind of run the pipeline. So this is where problems comes in, right? Like if you just implement DevOps,
mm,
you just contributor access to all of the people whoever you're onboarding onto the DevOps portal,
mm,
then the problem rises wherein everybody is can do everything. So
mm,
you need to again think back and then set up your RBAC control on your Azure DevOps tool or whatever DevOps tool that you are
mm,
using, right? So
mm,
now as a architect, initially what I said was we are going to use Azure DevOps for all your pipeline needs. Now, going back, looking into the problem, we are changing the design that everybody is going to use Azure DevOps still, but not directly Azure DevOps. Nobody is going to get a contributor access. Everybody is
yeah.
going to have a
Okay.
RBAC rule defined for them, right? But initially, like this is just an example and a hypothetical scenario I'm saying. But when
Mm,
we design a solution, when I say that when we are going to use Azure DevOps for a CI/CD pipeline and infrastructure as code or whatever configuration that you're going to do in your environment. We are going to use Azure DevOps. Then we kind of establish all the guidelines that are required while we are using the Azure DevOps. Right, that's the solution that we design. And sometimes there can be misses. Sometimes there can be like revisits to whatever we design, and then we kind of change that. Yeah.
okay. So next question is about enterprise architect. You said.
Mhm.
So what
Mhm.
did you do any certifications for that role?
No, mostly it's all the certification. Whatever I did was on Azure, right?
Mm,
So, I am again an architect on Azure, right? Azure Cloud and Azure DevOps. So, pretty much whatever Microsoft offers, like GitHub also right now, because that's also Microsoft's offering, right? So, um, from an enterprise architecture point of view, right? So it's just solution architecting,
mm,
but from an enterprise scale. Now you are one level above what you do for solution. Now you have to think more from a business point of view, right? So um, when you are designing technical solutions, you just like you think about the problem statement, you think about the application, and you think about what requires for that application, right?
mm,
From an enterprise standard point of view, now you're not just establishing for one application. Now you need to think out of the box and then think that if the solution that you are designing is not just sitting with one particular project within your scope purview, right? So it should be implemented, or the standards or whatever followed as part of the implementation in this project
mm.
should be scalable, right, to other applications within the enterprise.
Yeah.
So some more factors comes into picture when you become an enterprise architect, wherein the scalability of your design, right? First thing. And then the toolings that you choose must be enterprise wide, right? So you cannot choose tooling which is like only specific to the confined project's requirements, right? So whenever you onboard a tool, you're not just onboarding for that project, you're onboarding the tool for the enterprise, right?
Yeah, I
That,
understand now.
yeah. So it's just like when you are a solution architect, you focus on one solution, right? When you are an enterprise architect, you just focus on multiple solutions at the same time.
Yeah, so you worked in both
Yeah.
roles or just enterprise architect?
I kind of just became enterprise architect. To be honest, I just kind of do three projects right now.
Okay.
Okay. So not more than three project, but it's just recently something that I've undertaken. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes it will be very difficult for you to handle people, right?
Yeah.
And particularly when you come from a technical background, and when you act like a bridge between your business and the technical team, right?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
challenges come there because whatever language you speak to the technical team not necessarily should be understand by the business, right? So
Yeah.
to handle that, like to come out of that technical mindset and then just address the queries of the business, right,
Mm.
in a language that they understand, was very challenging for me in the initial days, right?
Mm.
And after the initial days, I kind of got used to it. Like you kind of like learn things, right? So when you discuss with people, and I had great mentors in within our organization, right? So whenever I had questions, I go to them. And whenever the major challenges to answer your question I have faced is just handling people,
Okay.
right? So from a process point of view, particularly from a bureaucratic
Yeah.
people point of view.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
makes sense because even from my point of view as well, I face the similar thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so which cloud you have worked in? I know you worked in Azure.
This is a great question, right? So, initially, when I kind of adopted or started adapting to the cloud, right? So everybody wants, whoever is a DevOps engineer or whatever developer or a tester, everybody wants to learn cloud.
Mm.
When initially when it started, I am speaking about some 10 years back, right?
Mm.
So 10 years back, I wanted to learn AWS, and I kind of started all those courses to learn AWS, right? So that is the beginning of my cloud career,
Mm.
just trainings on AWS and just trying to work out because they provided a free account, and for a year you can use some of the resources for free,
Mm.
right? So I even practiced with those, and then I had a good grasp about at least from a beginner point of view, good
Mm.
grasp about what how networking works, how infrastructure works on AWS, right?
Okay.
But unfortunately, I did not get any AWS project in my
Okay.
life, right? So
Okay.
I could not kind of
Okay. Mm.
proceed further with my AWS career. From a cloud point of view, it's just the branding that changes, but the
Okay.
core concepts is still virtualization, and
Mm.
everything is
Yeah.
same.
Yeah, everything is same.
You call it EC2 on AWS, you call virtual machine here. You call
Yeah.
VNet here, you call VPC there. That's all. It's just
Yeah,
all the same,
yeah,
just
just the names
changes.
are
Yeah.
different, but
Yeah,
concepts.
the branding is different, but the core services that are being offered is same. Yeah, but agreed. Some cloud providers provide some niche, different services from their from their cloud point of
Mm.
view. Like AWS provides SageMaker, which is a very
Yeah.
good AI platform, right? So
Mm.
here we have Azure AI Studio, but something is different, right? So AI Studio is kind of different from what SageMaker does, right?
Okay.
So yeah, there are certain specific services, list of services which are very specific to the cloud providers. But yeah,
Mm.
from a core services point of view, from an infrastructure services point of view, it's all the same. It's just the rebranding.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know the current market trend because I wasn't hunting for a job. But for the other roles, I mean, whatever roles I have performed earlier, right? I
Okay.
don't know the current market salary for them. But for a solution architect within India, you can kind of earn somewhere between 35 lakhs per annum to 40 lakhs per annum. Like, and in Canada, you can kind of earn somewhere between 120K to 180K. right, as a solution architect. Yeah,
Okay.
but I don't know about the other roles like DevOps engineer role
Uh,
or
yeah,
test
that's
automation.
fine. That's fine.
Yeah, because I kind of don't follow those roles anymore in market.
So just last one question, like if someone wants to get into Azure, uh, you know,
Mhm.
Azure roles, like, there are different types of
Yeah.
roles, right?
Yeah,
So what,
mostly infrastructure roles. So to get started with Azure, it's just Azure infrastructure engineer, right? So you learn about infrastructure services on Azure, right? And I would say, okay, current market trend. Let's speak about current market trend.
Mhm.
Where are people required, right? So the first area, the people required is data analytics and data science, right?
Okay.
So if you're coming on to Azure, so you need to learn Azure Databricks, Azure, mostly all Azure data services like Azure Synapse Analytics Workspace, Azure Data Factory, Azure Databricks, and storage accounts, all
And
those
just
stuff, right?
just one thing, as a developer, let us say I'm a React developer or Next.js developer,
Hmm.
then how
Hmm.
much do I need to know about Azure, or it is just there is uh, separation between the developer role and the DevOps role? Do I
No,
need to know?
yeah. So, from a developer point of view, right?
Mm,
So, what you need to know as a DevOps engineer is just your Azure pipelines.yaml file, right? So, you go, you just check them, and it's just
mm.
like very straightforward way
Okay.
of like
Yeah.
making your pipeline as a code. Okay,
Mm.
from a DevOps point of view, you obviously know what a developer needs to know, right?
Mm.
So you need to run npm install, you need to run
Yeah.
npm build, and you need to just deploy, right?
Yeah.
And deployment, you will have your own procedure, like you'll copy paste your code, or you just run it, or you just containerize it and then deploy the containers, right? As a developer, you already know DevOps stuff, right?
Yeah.
From an Azure point of view, if you are a developer on a front end or a full stack developer or something, you don't have anything to deal with Azure, to be honest, right?
Okay.
You can go with any platform, you can deploy your code or your application on any platform, right? And you need to just focus on your development skills. But when you just speak about cloud, within cloud you have different multiple roles within cloud, right? So you have your cloud infrastructure engineer, and that's what I was coming to. Like, you have cloud infrastructure engineer, you have cloud data analytics and data scientist, analyst and data scientist, right? And then you have cloud AI engineer. Okay. And there is one last thing, that's site reliability engineering, which is also a DevOps role, right? So these four roles are majorly like current market trend on cloud, any cloud, right? So since I'm into Azure, I will take Azure as an example. Wherein, like, for a data engineer, as I said, all the data services within Azure, you
Mm.
can just say like learn, and then it is simple. Like Databricks, again, you need some level of Python scripting or R scripting or Scala scripting just to write like ETL logics within the Databricks, right? So extraction logic or whatever processing logic into the Databricks, right? So, and this is what a data engineer is required, or a data analyst or a data scientist, right? So it's a transition. Like, data engineering starts with just ingestion of the data. Data analyst is like you run machine learning models, make some sense out of the data. Data scientist is someone who actually decides what kind of algorithms you use for making the analytics data into more meaningful business results, right? So
Okay.
that's what a data scientist does. And from an AI engineering point of view, so you have like all uh, um, AI services within Azure, right? So you have AI 900, which is a good start for an AI engineer. AI engineers' roles and responsibilities is just to build AI models, deploy AI models for a business need, right? So you have generative AI, generative AI, you have natural language processing, you have deep learning, you have multiple, like, prediction, anomaly prediction, completions, chat assistants, right? You
Yeah.
have different type of AI like tools available. You, as an AI engineer, you are tasked with developing such a tool which is like tailor made to a business need, right? So that's what an AI engineer does. And from an infrastructure engineer point of view, the evergreen role, right? So you need to just learn about Azure infrastructure services, everything like networking, compute, storage,
Mm.
backup, all the stuff. And from a site reliability point of view, you need to learn about disaster recovery, high availability solutions, and all those stuff. So
Yeah.
these are all the four major roles that you kind of find online on cloud, and you can pick any of these role and then start learning things like yeah, these are market trending roles.